What is the best MCU movie post-Avengers Endgame? Let's talk about it. What's going on, guys? I'm Chris, and welcome back to another video. So today I'm going to be ranking all 13 MCU movies post-Avengers Endgame. Endgame came out in April of 2019, so we've gotten 13 MCU movies since then. And I'm going to be ranking all of them from my least favorite to my favorite. Now, the reason I'm not doing a full-on MCU ranking this time around is because yes, we just got Brave New World, it's February, but in May we're getting Thunderbolts, and in July we're getting Fantastic Four. And so between 3 movies this year, I didn't feel like making a full-on ranking for every single one. And because the discussions are arising recently of like what are the actual best movies post-Endgame, I'm just taking a smaller sample size of movies after the end of the Infinity Saga, even though Far From Home technically is, I guess, and breaking that down and giving you my thoughts on that. I will be doing a full ranking either after Thunderbolts or Fantastic Four, and frankly, breaking news here, I'm very strongly considering doing a commentary track series where I rewatch the entire MCU over on my Patreon. That could be in the works behind the scene. It would likely start up in March, and I would drop 1 to 2 movie commentary tracks per week. So be on the lookout for that potentially. I'll give you more news in the coming days or weeks, but I'm ranking all 13 post-Endgame movies now. So hit that like button, comment your ranking of these movies down below. Where does Brave New World place? Let me know that, and check out my review linked up above. And of course, subscribe to that notification bell to help reach my goal of 150,000 subscribers here on the channel. It would mean quite a lot. But I say we waste no time in getting into this thing. I won't go too in-depth with my thoughts on some of these movies because, frankly, you already know how I feel about some of these stinkers. In dead last for me at number 13 should come as no surprise. It's Thor: Love and Thunder, a movie that I find to be painfully unfunny. They wasted Christian Bale as the villain, but most importantly, this movie has gone too far with the joke of Thor. He's always been fun in the MCU, even dating back to the first Avengers, but he really went full comedy in like Ragnarok, Infinity War. He's got his funny moments in Endgame. You know, Fat Thor was a thing. But this movie, to me, miss after miss after miss with the humor, and I never really want to watch it again. It was a hard watch. At number 12, just above that for me, I've got The Marvels. Now, this was a movie when it initially released. I was a little higher on than most people. I still don't think it's some terrible abomination of a movie, but having only seen it the one time, I haven't thought about this since theaters, and so time has definitely played a factor in why this is lower than it initially was when I first walked out of that theater. I still stand by the fact that Miss Marvel, played by Iman Vellani, is the shining star of this movie, and the stuff with Nick Fury and Miss Marvel's parents I thought was great. I'm also a cat guy, so seeing more Flurkins, I'm not going to complain about that, but I can't look past how messy the movie feels. It's very rushed through. It eventually does find its footing, but again, if we're talking villains here, this one has maybe the weakest of the post-Endgame era. You could definitely argue that, and honestly, portions of this movie have escaped my mind since I first watched it, so that kind of goes to show, does it stand the test of time? Not really, because it isn't the most memorable, and it undeniably is messy. At number 11, above that, I've actually got Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Another one of those movies that when I initially saw it, I was higher on than most people, but as time has passed, it's been 2 years. I have not revisited this movie in 2 years. I haven't thought about it much at all. Then you gotta factor in like the way that the character of Kang has been handled, and that just kind of dampens the mood on that movie. Like, Quantumania initially was gonna set up like the next Avengers, and it seemed like we were building towards something. That's one of my praises of the movie. I was like, we're headed towards the Kang dynasty. The post-credit scene like let us know there's gonna be tons of Kang variants, and so it seemed like we were heading that direction. It was very cheesy, the VFX hit or miss. That's a lot of these movies, frankly, but I was more forgiving because I was like, well, at least it's, you know, leaping us ahead and taking us and setting up, you know, the Kang dynasty. Well, that's just not the case anymore. So when you look back at this movie, I question its existence because we're not going the Kang route. We've completely changed directions in the MCU, and so what is the point of this movie? I'm not sure. I still, you know, like what they do with Scott's character. He kind of comes back down to earth with this father-daughter story, but still, Quantumania, another one of those messy movies, and as time has passed, I've gotten less forgiving of the film and haven't thought about it much, so that's why it slipped since the initial viewing. Next on my list at number 10, I've got Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, a movie that really was a huge disappointment when I first saw it. I was frustrated with how they handled Wanda's character here. She's more of a villain in this film, undeniably. I always found that Multiverse of Madness was having an identity crisis. People throw that term around. This is like the definition of that for an MCU movie. Did it want to be a Doctor Strange sequel, or did it want to be a WandaVision sequel? This is one of the first instances, I'd say, in the post-Endgame era, theatrically, where a movie is almost at war with itself about what it wants to be. It should have just committed to one. We should have had a Scarlet Witch movie, or we should have had Doctor Strange 2. I know Sam Raimi directed. Trust me, I love the Raimi trilogy, as you guys can see right here. While his style shines through in certain elements and they go in on some of the horror aspects, I just found this one to be a bore by the end, and it was not my cup of tea. I also find it to be messy. I think a lot of the post-Endgame films are, and so this one really let me down, guys. I can't lie. They also set up this really awesome concept within the multiverse of like the Illuminati, and then boom, they're turned to spaghetti noodles instantly, pretty much. So talk about going from like the highest of highs to the lowest of lows in like 10 minutes. At number 9, I've got Eternals. I think this movie for the most part's a bit overhated, but again, I'm not some diehard Eternals fan. I just found the movie to be fresh at the time in a sense that it introduced a lot of new characters, new faces in the MCU, and I was like, okay, I'm here for this. We kind of had our familiar faces. We get a new crew here. I'm okay with that. However, because you got, 11 characters introduced, it's hard to really connect with all of them. On top of that, the movie takes huge swings. Like, the movie is too grand for its own good. What I mean by that is it introduces new concepts that kind of rewire the way we view the MCU and like the way the world functions, so it could get a little messy. Again, I come back to that word time and time again because it's kind of a word I would almost use to describe the post-Endgame era for the most part, but Eternal still has its really cool moments. I wish we had more of Kit Harington as Dane Whitman, and they kind of set him up for nothing in the post-credits scene. We had Barry Keoghan as Druig, Kumail Nanjiani as Kingo, Richard Madden. I mean, there were some top-tier actors here. It was just too big for its own good, and a lot of people have said it might work better as a miniseries or show, and I'm starting to warm up to that idea. But at number 8, I've actually got Black Widow, a movie that I saw multiple times in theaters. I think I saw it twice in theaters, once on like the Disney Plus premiere thing. So I'd seen it 3 times opening week, and my favorite element of this film was the Red Guardian relationship with Yelena and Black Widow, that father figure. But Yelena as a character, I will say, is probably my favorite post-Endgame character that's been introduced into the MCU. I just loved the family dynamic of this movie. The spy action was there. Again, there's some atrocious green screen and CGI elements, but I do feel like that is apparent in every single one of these movies, unfortunately, just because of how frequently they've started to pump them out, and they haven't put as much care into that element of the film. They've kind of just rushed through it. But Black Widow has some cool spy action. I do think the movie was long overdue. I mean, Black Widow should have had a film a long time ago. She appeared in Iron Man 2. She probably should have had one in Phase 2, to be honest with you. So this movie was a little past its time. It should have come out maybe 5 to 7 years earlier, I would say. But still, I dug it for what it was. At number 7, I've got the newly released Captain America Brave New World. Another one of those movies that I just don't understand the overwhelming amount of hate for. Yes, it's flawed. However, all the movies I just talked about are flawed as well, and people have them ranked higher than Brave New World. So it's just, it is what it is. Have your opinion, I don't care. I'm just saying. Brave New World has some really sick aerial combat. Harrison Ford shines as Thunderbolt Ross. When we do get the Red Hulk, it's awesome. The VFX with Red Hulk I thought were great, but too often they were hit or miss in the movie, and to me it was just cool to see Sam Wilson as Captain America. He embraced that role, Anthony Mackie crushed it, and a lot of themes present in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier continued into this film, specifically with the character of Isaiah Bradley, so I enjoyed that. The political intrigue, the conspiracy elements, and the leader kind of pulling the strings behind the scene. I was intrigued. I personally don't think the movie was as messy as it's being made out to be. I thought it flowed together pretty well. Call me a madman, but it's far from perfect. I gave it like a 3.5 out of 5 on Letterboxd. You can follow me over there at Filmstock if you want to see my review. And heads up, my review is just a link to my YouTube video. So just go watch the YouTube video linked up above. At number 6, I've got Black Panther Wakanda Forever, a movie that really takes a toll emotionally. This is like paying homage to the legacy of Chadwick Boseman, so it's a sad watch. Because of that, I rarely revisit this one. Namor, the villain here, is solid, and we explore that whole side of the MCU. There's a bit too much going on, I'll say, with like the Everett Ross and Contessa Valentina Allegra de Fontaine plotline, but you still do get to see a cool side of Wakanda in a pretty epic final showdown. It is almost 3 hours, and it's pretty draining emotionally. But bringing us into the top 5, I've got Spider-Man Far From Home, which feels weird to discuss, right? But technically it's post-Endgame, so we're gonna bring it in here. I don't love this movie, but Gyllenhaal's Mysterio is the bright light of the movie. The man's having a blast. We got a lot of cool Spidey suits here, and while we get another Tom Holland entry in the MCU, I do wish that in his trilogy we actually got to see that down-to-earth, friendly neighborhood Spider-Man that they kind of set up at the end of No Way Home. We'll talk about No Way Home in a second. But Far From Home, I dig. It's a fun summer movie. However, it is the weakest of Tom Holland's Spider-Man films. Number 4 on my list is going to be Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. We need to see more of this character immediately. Why haven't we gotten a sequel? I don't know. Why haven't we seen this character again? I don't know. It's a crime in my opinion. It was fresh. The action was there. We got to explore this fantasy side of the MCU. It felt fresh and fun to me, and I actually really dug this movie. I think I gave it like 4 or 4.5 stars. I saw it multiple times in theaters. At the time of its release, it was like the movie we needed, and it also did the impossible. And it kind of redeemed Iron Man 3 for me in the way they handled the Mandarin, as we got more of the character Trevor here, played by Ben Kingsley. So Shang-Chi, I'm a fan of. I am. I'm excited to rewatch that one hopefully soon if I end up doing this MCU commentary track thing. But in the top 3, we've got 3 5 out of 5 movies for me. At number 3, I've got Deadpool and Wolverine. I've talked about this movie ad nauseum since it came out last summer. Gave me everything I wanted and then some. I mean, the opening scene with the credits, I've watched that probably 10 plus times on YouTube just for a thrill on a random Wednesday. I'll be like, yeah, let me toss this on. I love the way they handled the character of Deadpool, but also Wolverine. They could have completely butchered it, and they didn't. They respect the end of Logan while also bringing in this new version of the character. Hugh Jackman still crushes it as always, and there's a lot of trauma with that character, so he has to work through that. Deadpool's trying to be the hero he always wants to be. I think it has a better main plot than people give it credit for, and there are like meaningful character arcs there as well. So I think people dismiss this one because of a lot of the cameos and action, but all that stuff just mixes together to make one of my favorite comic book movies of the decade. But at number 2, I've got Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Round of applause for James Gunn. He really sent these characters off into the sunset. What a perfect ending. The dog days are over, baby. That's all I need to say, really. But this movie will have you crying. It'll have you fist pumping. The no sleep till Brooklyn won her. Like that final fight scene with them all. Whew, damn good stuff. James Gunn, he ate. He left no crumbs, and that was his MCU farewell, and man, did he leave an impact. But number 1, no surprise, is going to be Spider-Man No Way Home. This is the definitive Spider-Man movie to me. They gave us 3 versions of Peter Parker in live action with all 3 Spideys swinging together. It's a childhood dream come true, but that's not the reason this is number 1. This is the best we've seen Tom Holland Spider-Man in the MCU. He goes through the most. The man is at his lowest of lows, and the other Spideys have to come in from other universes, relate to him, and bring him out of the hell that he's in. What a journey. Obviously, you got Dafoe as Goblin being a complete menace as always, but you got Melina back as Doc Ock, so the nostalgia's all over this movie. Multiple moments ruling, from the moment in the apartment where Peter has his Peter tingle and he realizes, you know, Goblin is about to turn. Whew, it's lights out, electric stuff. This is actually the movie I've seen more than any other in theaters, with 5 viewings in theaters, so I adore this one. I will always be a No Way Home defender despite the haters that have risen up over the years. But that is my ranking of all the MCU movies post-Avengers Endgame. Let me know yours in the comments down below and hit that like button. Subscribe and hit that notification bell, and stay tuned for a potential commentary track series coming on Patreon where I rewatch all the movies with you guys. It'll be a very fun time. I am probably gonna end up doing it, so be on the lookout for that news and, you know, how you can join Patreon and all that stuff. It's linked in the description of this video, frankly. But more to come with the MCU later this year in only a few months. And Daredevil Born Again is right around the corner. Please be good. Appreciate you guys for watching as always, and until next time, I'll see you guys later.